Hi, I'm Clésia Mendes, and welcome to the second season of Womanhood from the Inside Out. In this interview series, we'll be discovering and uncovering the nature of womanhood from the inside out. Why is it important? When does it show? How can we identify it? And what are the implications of womanhood from the inside out? And today's guest is my dear friend, Rohini Ross. Rohini is a psychotherapist, a leadership consultant, a transformative coach, and a HuffPost blogger. She facilitates trainings and personalized programs for individuals, couples, and professionals to help them connect more fully with their true nature and experience greater levels of well being, resilience, and success, both personally and professionally. Rohini lives with her husband of 23 years, Angush, and her two teenage daughters in Topanga, California, where she loves to hike with her dog Bella. And welcome, Rohini.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. Um, how did you first came across the inside out understanding of life?
Well, it was an interesting journey. I was actually thinking about that this morning, and I realized because I just got the the latest copy of the relationship handbook that's been re-released after 25 years. And I realized I read that book for the first time in, I believe it was 2004. But at that time, it didn't talk about the three principles. So it had a huge impact on me and on my relationship with Angus, but it didn't sort of point me in the direction of where I could go deeper in the understanding. But that really was my first introduction to it without really knowing it. And then what happened is I became licensed as a therapist, and I was working, getting my hours toward licensure. And I was in quite a full job in the sense that I was on call, I was working with families, and part of the framework of how the job was set up is that people could call me as needed. So I was basically on call 24/7, it felt like. So I started to think at that time that, wow, I don't know that I can continue working as a therapist. This feels like it might be too much for me. What am I going to do? I'm not even licensed yet. What am I going to do? And a lot of the people that I graduated, I went to the University of Santa Monica, and a lot of the people I knew that graduated from that program were moving on in their lives, working in the coaching field. And so I thought, well, why don't I look into coaching and just see what that's about? And maybe that's something that I can add on to what I'm doing. And if I'm not able to do therapy, then at least I have that to look forward to. So I was speaking with different coaches, asking them about different training programs that they would recommend. And a coach that I respect, Steve Hardison, recommended Michael Neal's Super Coach Academy. And when I did it, though, it wasn't, it was before Michael had transferred it to a total three principles training experience. And so when I did the training, there was one weekend that George and Linda Pransky came to speak. And they obviously spoke about the principles. And I was really impacted by that weekend. I knew that there was something that really resonated on a feeling level inside of me. It made sense in a deeper knowing part of me, but I really didn't understand what it was. I couldn't, what are they doing and how is it different than what I do? Because I already worked from a foundation in spiritual psychology, but the training program that I went to integrated psychological techniques with the understanding of our true spiritual nature being whole and complete. So it's very different than the three principles. But at the time, I knew they were pointing in the same direction that I had a foundation in, of knowing that we're innately whole and complete. And then there's that depth of well-being inside of us, our authentic self. But what I was doing to try and get there was using techniques with people, and it doesn't make sense now, but at the time it made sense. And so it whetted my curiosity. And so I did a training with Michael after that. And then I started talking with Barb Patterson about the Pransky and Associates mentorship program. And we were having a very sort of easygoing back and forth conversation about it. And it was kind of on the back burner. And then I got a call from Barb saying that they had someone who needed a client. And they wondered if I would be interested in coming up as a client so that I could experience the program or get a sense of it. And that might help, me decide whether or not it's something I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew inside, like I was just really clear, like, oh yes, this is a yes. Like I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but I just know, yes, I want to do this. And the way that they set it up is it's a 4-day retreat. You go up to Lacona, Washington. And this was before I really understood the benefit of slowing down and, having a quiet mind. And for whatever reason, the timing of it was that I wasn't able to get there the night before. So I had to fly in the morning and drive up from Seattle and walk in basically straight into a session in the afternoon. So that's what I did. Made sense at the time. So I do that. I get there. I've never met, it was with Linda Pransky and Leela Turner. Never met them before. And I was nervous. It's because I didn't know, what am I doing? Who are these people? And Linda asked me, one of the questions she asked me was, what I wanted to get out of the 4 days. And so the reason that I wanted to go there was that I was, at the time I was doing a lot of public speaking. I had sort of moved forward in my work. I was no longer just working as a therapist. I was also now in the leadership of a behavioral health company. And there were 3 of us on the leadership team. And I was the only one that would be willing to go and do all of the public speaking engagements that we were being asked to do for the company. And it wasn't that I wasn't terrified of doing it. I was the only one that was willing to be terrified and do it anyway. And on some level, I kind of enjoyed it, but not really. I was quite miserable. And so I'd said to Linda, I'd really like to feel less insecure. I'm really having to do these talks and I'm nervous. And even if it goes well, there was so much negative chatter, negative self-talk, self-judgment. Even if I was getting external positive feedback afterwards, my internal experience was really uncomfortable and painful. And so I'm like, please, if we can do anything about that, I'd be very happy. And so she then asked me, well, what do you already know about the principles? And I said, well, I really do see that what I feel comes from my thoughts. Like I was really clear on that. But where I had gone off on a kind of, I would say, a tangent with that is like, because it was so clear to me, then it just made sense that I should manage my thinking so that I could have more experiences that I liked and less experiences that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. And so I thought that there was something wrong with me, that I couldn't not have these insecure thoughts. Like I knew my feelings of insecurity were coming from my own thinking. I knew it wasn't coming from the people or the talks. Like I got that much, at least that much of the inside out nature of experience. So I knew all of this insecurity was coming from inside of me. And I thought, well, that means I just need to stop having these thoughts. And what I was doing, and I didn't really see it at the time, was that I was judging myself for my experience. I was judging myself for having these thoughts. So rather than letting them flow by, I was just getting more and more glued into them and making them look more and more real. Well, of course, I didn't realize that at the time. And so as part of the conversation, as I kind of explained all of this to the 2 of them, what I saw from that one meeting, that first meeting, just changed everything for me. It really, it was a defining moment. It was something where I really had a deep experience on a feeling level of the principles impacting my state of consciousness. And it was what I remember Linda saying, who knows what she actually said, but what I heard or what really impacted me was that she helped me see that there was nothing wrong with the experience that I was having. Mm. So I was going there to change that experience. And she did the opposite. She basically said, there's nothing to worry about that you're having this experience. There's nothing wrong with you that you're having this experience. This is normal human experience. And then what she said was that when you're in that experience of insecurity, it's completely unreasonable to expect, and again, I'm paraphrasing her, but it's completely unreasonable to expect that you can find your happiness and well-being when you're in that state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And that I really was thinking that there was just something that I wasn't seeing that was going to allow me to be able to just erase that experience from my life and just drop into well-being, because I saw the nature of thought and or a little bit of that. And so I just saw the amount of pressure that I was putting on myself. And in seeing it, it was really just in the seeing it, I let it go. Like, I just let it go. And when I let it go, the amount of well-being, peace, just the exhale of relaxation was just so profound. And my mind, my personal thinking got really, really quiet. And I just dropped into a really beautiful feeling. And it was something that I hadn't experienced in that level of depth before. And I just saw that I was okay. I just felt that I was fine and there was nothing wrong with me and there was nothing I needed to worry about. And so that was sort of my really up close and personal first experience in terms of the power this understanding has. Mm-hmm. And then what was really kind of funny is we had that meeting. That was the first meeting. There's 3 more days left. So I'm up in Laconer and I'm in this incredible, beautiful feeling and this quiet mind. And I have this sense of, well, if I walk too fast, I'm going to lose this feeling. So I was starting to get attached to the feeling. But what I started to realize is, no, I can just go about my life and it's going to stay as long as it's going to stay. Who knows, what it's going to be like. And so I continued to, do the sessions and just sort of deepen and steep in this experience and enjoy. I think the 3 of us just really enjoyed being in the feeling together. And then as I had set aside my work, because this was meant to be a retreat, mm-hmm. and I noticed, I can't remember if it was like on day 2 or day 3, but I really started feeling inspired to actually do some of the work that I hadn't been wanting to do. Part of the other reason that I was going there is I was feeling really burnt out. So that's the funny thing, where first I was burnt out thinking it was because I was a therapist and, having to work with clients that were calling me all the time. Now I'm in a leadership position, not providing as much direct contact support, but now supporting the organization with growth and providing supervision to clinicians. Oh, but funny enough, I still feel burnt out. So it's like that pressure was just pervasive. It didn't matter, what job I was going to take, because the pressure was coming from inside of me. And so in that experience of letting all of that pressure go, I actually felt my inspiration related to the work that I was doing again. And I really wanted to do it. And so I just started working on it. And what really surprised me was how quickly I was able to do things. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't trying to do them quickly. But from that clarity of mind with not a lot of thinking on it, my level of productivity just shot right up. And I just got through things. I got through, emails that I had probably been procrastinating on doing, or, it was the projects that I hadn't really been wanting to do that I was just getting done in this ease. And so that's where I saw, like, oh, productivity, success, that's the byproduct of this state of mind. It's not the other way around, the way that I thought, oh, if I do more, get more done, then I'm going to have peace. No, it's like it's from this state of consciousness that I experience more productivity, more well-being, greater ease with communication. Like, it's like, oh, now I get it. Not that I get it, but there's more to get always, but I got something. Mm-hmm. And so with that, I just allowed myself to, it's not that I allowed myself, I just saw more easily when I would start to go down that path of judging myself and putting pressure on myself. And it was just a habitual thought pattern. And I saw that it wasn't necessary. it was invisible to me before. I hadn't really seen what I was doing to myself in such clarity.
Mhm.
And so after that experience, I think two things happened. One was, it didn't feel so fresh and new to me anymore, so it just kind of became normal. I think two, it might have been that I did have a very deep experience of a peaceful mind that kind of shifted. But I think that there was something sustainable that happened there where I just quieted down, and that became the new normal. And in that new normal, I became a lot more sensitive to noticing when I was putting pressure on myself. And so I became aware of it in a way that would sort of wake me up to it. And the waking up to it was just what would most of the time allow me to let it go.
Mm.
So I really saw then that in my work now as a leader within a corporation, the work I was doing in my private practice with clients, that it all pointed to the same direction. That when people connected with the well-being that's inside of themselves, they see what they need to see. They have the insights they need to have. That's not my job. And that really the simplicity of my work was to, through the understanding of the three principles, point people towards their authentic self and true nature, and help them see and experience that more deeply. And from that, they see what they need to see related to whatever it is that they're coming to work with me on. And so that changed the whole approach with clients, and it took all of the pressure off of me, so that now I might get tired in terms of working and traveling and being busy, but I don't feel burnt out. And there's a big difference, I think, between the two for me anyway. And so it's not like I never get tired or I don't need to sleep. I do. But I feel such a level of inspiration about this work that the burnout doesn't come into the equation anymore.
Wow, that is an incredible story. Thank you so much for that, Rohini, because you cover several levels really. You spoke about the burnout that you were experiencing at the time. How did you first came across this understanding? What happened for you? And I found it fascinating that by the second day, while you originally said you were concerned about your public speaking and you would like to have a better experience of doing public speaking, and then you see something, and I love the word you use, pervasive. Once you were able to see something, that well-being started showing up in everything else you were doing.
Absolutely. And that, it's really funny because I just taught a workshop a couple of weeks ago, and I thought about the difference between my experience doing that workshop and facilitating it and the experience that I had previously doing public speaking. Because at first it really was that it wasn't that I didn't feel insecure. The difference and the real freedom was that it didn't bother me that I would feel insecure. And that was enough. I just saw it doesn't matter that I feel insecure. It doesn't have to do anything with my performance. It doesn't mean anything about me. It's just a feeling that's going to pass. Oh, well, so be it. But then what happened over time is that because I guess I just didn't fuel it anymore, it wasn't on my mind, it just stopped happening. So I can't say that I'll never feel insecure with public speaking again. But what I see consistently now is that it doesn't even occur to me. And that I really am much more interested, and I think this is what's so important, in stopping thinking about myself, because really that's all insecurity is, and getting over myself and stop worrying about me and how I'm doing and how I'm looking and how good I am. Letting that go, it allows me to show up in a way that is, in my experience at least, far greater service to the people that I'm there to serve. And that I'm much clearer in being able to not have myself on my mind and really be present with the group or the person. I mean, usually I was not with individuals, it was usually with groups that I would feel insecure, but really much more present with the group and be of service to them. And that's so much less work and so much more fun.
Yes, and that is great, because I was in a training just 4 days ago. And one of our colleagues, one of the participants, was sharing how the word that he used was, how nourishing it felt to be in that space, of the space of the quiet mind. We still taking action. We're doing whatever the things we need to do, but how nourishing it is, and it is like not exactly equivalent to inspiration, but it's like there is a generative quality to be in that space.
Absolutely. I love that word, nourishing. And that is what it feels like, because for me, with taking my thinking less seriously, sort of seeing thought, negative thought, just as thought more often, not always, but more often, it just leaves so much more room to experience who I am and to experience the present moment. And when I say experience who I am, it's not who I am with the little I. It's like the whatever that is, the oneness, the what isn't really me, what's greater than me.
Mhm.
The more room there is for that to kind of fill me up from the inside. And one of the things that I love about the teachers of the three principles is that they really encourage the sharing of this understanding. And I remember, being told that the more you share, the more you get. And that's absolutely my experience, and that I get filled up. And in the sharing of what I'm seeing, whatever is present, I keep getting filled up. And there's this beautiful reciprocity that just kind of, I think, ripples out from all of us that get impacted and touched in this way. But it is a nourishment. It is a filling up. It's the feeling that just allows us to feel, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's feel sustained. It's not depleted. Because I was living my life from a very depleted state. But it wasn't that wasn't there. It was just, I was so depleted from all of the energy I was putting into fueling all of the thinking that was going on for me at the time. And I just couldn't see that I was expending my energy in that way.
I love that. Would you mind expanding on that for other people? For example, if they are therapists, coaches, or consultants, or other type of change workers, that sometimes people may feel burned out because there is that experience of giving, 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 but they're not getting filled up again. Would you like to expand on that, please?
Well, what I saw is that I thought that the burnout was coming from what I was giving. I thought that, it was because I was getting too many phone calls, or it was because, there were too many demands on me at the organization, all these reasons from the outside. I was just giving too much. And then what I saw is, well, if my experience really is coming 100% from thought, which I believe it does, then my experience of burnout cannot be coming from what I'm doing, because that's not thought. And so I started to see more clearly that what was causing the feeling of burnout was actually all of my insecure thinking and judgments and pressure, perfectionist thought that I was buying into as real and not seeing it as thought. And that wasn't something that was new to me. That was something I'd lived with for a very long time. So waking up to being able to see that my ideas that I need to be better, I need to work harder, I need to do more, none of those were true. Those were all ego-driven, self-centered, selfish in a way thoughts that I bought into and thought I need, that's what was going to make me do things in life. I thought those were the responsible parties for getting me to do stuff. And I didn't think that I would do anything if I didn't sort of allow that to drive me. But what was driving me when I was driven by those thoughts, they're exhausting, because it's never enough. It's never enough. I could never satisfy those thoughts by doing more to get them to quiet down. The more that I allowed those thoughts to drive my behavior, the stronger they got. Like it was the opposite effect. Rather than them dissipating, the more power they seemed to get, because I was really making them look more real to me. they didn't exist other than inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I really saw that my burnout was coming from those perfectionistic thoughts that were telling me that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't doing enough. And when I started to see those more as just thought, they lost that kind of grip.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about the experience of them losing their grip is, one, there's like the relief, but two, there's the ability to connect with what's really inspiring to me. And letting that guide my life is so much more freeing and fulfilling than having those thoughts of do more to get somewhere, which, you know, doesn't even exist other than in my mind. And so as soon as I let those go, then the burnout just doesn't exist, because rather than being fueled by fear, I was now being fueled by inspiration. Mm-hmm. But I do want to say there was a period of time, as part of my transition, I decided, you know, after working on the leadership team for several years, my practice started to grow, especially as I deepened my understanding of the principles. And so I kind of had to make a decision. I couldn't do both. Mm. And so I let go of that job and went on to building my practice. And at that time when I let go of the job, because at that point I was basically doing, you know, 2 jobs really, because my practice had grown and I was doing that. I thought, wow, I'm going to have so much energy. It's going to be amazing. All this time is going to be freed up. I'll look forward to it. So we had a very amicable agreement. I completed with that position and I got really tired. I had no energy. And what was really interesting is I just didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do it. I was just basically doing the bare minimum. And I remember thinking, am I depressed? Like, what's going on with me? Why don't I want to do anything? But my mood wasn't low. So that's why it was really curious to me. I didn't really have a super low mood. I just was tired. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that, oh, I'm finally got some space, and my wisdom is basically telling me to rest, because I've been pushing myself to such an extent that my body needs to recover from that. And so there was an adjustment period where on a physical level, I really did need to rest. And I can't remember, it probably lasted 2 or 3 months. I mean, I thought it would last a week. I was like, okay, that's good enough. Let's go. And it's like, oh, what's going on? So it probably lasted 2 or 3 months. But then I started to just then feel re-inspired. Oh, now this. And then what I also noticed was that I got a lot better at having patience. I think that time period helped me to see the benefit of being patient and not pushing myself. And what started to happen was opportunities started to come my way. So I wasn't even making them happen, but just opportunities would pop up. I'd have a conversation with someone. You know, I think one of the ones, I was at a friend's birthday party, and I happened to be talking with someone, and she was working for this consultant that needed help with a project that they were working on. She said, oh, I'll mention you to him. And, you know, it just like everything worked out from there. So I'm like, oh, well, isn't that interesting how it's okay to just sort of be in the place of being receptive and following inspiration and noticing the breadcrumbs that follow and just kind of following the next one. And it's such a different way to live my life and a different way to grow my business. But it has been just so rewarding and so much fun. And, you know, there can be times where I'll still worry. I'm still human, but it's just, I kind of laugh at myself now. So when I catch myself doing it, it's like, you know, I'm just going to follow the next step that shows up, and that's the best that I can do, and that's good enough. So there's a lot of freedom in that.
I love that. And one of the things when you said, when you just let go of the other position, and then all of a sudden you had that free space, and then you felt tired, almost like your body was asking for that time for recovery. And it's quite a normal thing. Like, for example, people go on holiday, they book their holiday from work, and the first 3 or 5 days they fall off sick. I was like, what a terrible time. It's perfect because, in a way, there is intelligence of life knows, yes, you've got free time. Let's recover now. Let's do that now.
That's right.
Yes. And one of the things that I'm also really interested. So you spoke already about how impacted your career, how everything was growing from there, and then you chose as you were growing your job and your practice, and then you chose to focus more energy into your practice. Now, one of the things that I'm also curious is in the beginning of the interview, you did mention that you first came across the relationship handbook by George Pransky. And it's quite an interesting story how a few years down the line you get to meet him in person during the retreat. Now, how did the inside out understanding pervaded your relationships? So I'm using that word, pervaded. Yeah, I'm enjoying that. And feel free to use a different one, a more nourishing one.
Yeah, maybe permeated is a good one. I'll use
Permeated.
that too. Permeated.
Let's go with that one.
It definitely permeated my relationship with my husband, with everybody. Well, I would say that was one of the places that I really first noticed a huge difference inside of myself. So even though, I'd read the relationship handbook in 2004 and got a glimpse of some things that didn't, fully sink in. And Angus and I would have thought, we had a really good relationship. We did have a good relationship, but when I look at our relationship now, I see, wow, I had no idea that what we have now is possible back then. And so one of the differences between, after reading the relationship handbook and now is at the time, I think what I saw was that I could get over myself more when I read the book. Like I saw how I could be really hard on Angus. I could be hard on myself. Like, so I really got that. And that absolutely helped our relationship because we were having a very difficult time at that point. We actually were separated briefly, but then we came back together and we were both really committed and in. But what still occurred, I'm just gonna have a little bit of water. I got a frog in my throat. What was occurring to me still was that when Angus would get annoyed or not be happy with me, I would take it very personally. Mm-hmm. And I would feel kind of I would definitely feel like a victim in that situation. Not that he was doing anything terrible, but inside of myself it would really be hard. And so as I got a deeper understanding of how what I was feeling in those moments was really coming from inside of me and not him. Mm-hmm. I think I knew it intellectually. I knew that intellectually, but it wasn't enough to really see it clearly for myself. And so what happened is that I just started to get more, like after I had that 4-day experience, I was so much more connected with my own well-being inside of myself that, after that, Angus, would get annoyed or do whatever he was doing at the time. And I didn't get shaken up in the way that I had previously. I didn't lose my internal stability, and I was able to see the situation much more clearly. And when I was able to see it more clearly, what I saw is that he wasn't okay in that moment, that he was suffering. And that what he was expressing to me was just a reflection of his own suffering in that moment. And I hadn't seen it that clearly before. Like, I don't even think I'd thought about it that way. I think I'd only thought about how my feelings were coming from inside of me. Mm-hmm. It hadn't even occurred to me that he was really suffering when he was behaving that way. So it really took the focus off of myself and helped me to see more in a broader context. Like, oh, he's suffering. And when he's suffering, just like when anyone's suffering, we don't always behave our best. I don't behave my best when I'm suffering. So I was able to have compassion in a way that I'd never had before, authentically and genuinely. And that, my ability to do that, and Angus will talk about that now because we do trainings together now, and we work with couples together often. And so one of the things he shared with me was that when that first happened, he was like, what happened to her? Like, he didn't understand. And he said that, you know, he would do the things that he knew would normally get me really upset. I don't know if he was doing them on purpose or not, but he started to wonder, like, has she just like become, what was the word he used? Is she like just zoned out? Like, is she not there anymore? What happened to her? Why isn't she getting upset? And so he noticed a difference. And then what happened was the genuine goodwill that I was able to hold more frequently, I'm not saying I could do that all the time, but more frequently, helped him to settle down more easily. So things wouldn't escalate in the same way. And then what would happen is, you know, because I'm not perfect and I'm human, sometimes I do get destabilized, but I would bounce back so much more quickly because there wasn't any judgment anymore. It was just like, oh, whatever, you know, he wasn't himself, or I wasn't myself. Let's move on. So there wasn't a lot of time spent talking about what happened and what was wrong and what we need to do better, or more importantly, what you need to do better on my end. Like, all of that is no longer a relevant conversation because we recognize that we can't take each other seriously. Like Angus, another thing that Angus shared with me, he said he remembers one time where he was, you know, saying some mean things to me and I wasn't reacting. And I said to him, I said, you know, I just can't take what you're saying seriously right now. I know that you're not okay. And so, you know, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I mean, that was like revolutionary. You know, I mean, that was common for other people, but for us, that was revolutionary. So in terms of our relationship, it transformed what was already a good relationship. So it took something that was working and that we were both deeply committed to, but it took it to a whole other level of ease and understanding and depth of love that I didn't even know was available. And so I'm sure like there's more there too that I'm not even experiencing now. So it's just so exciting to just see what's going to show up, you know, what's going to happen next kind of thing. But fundamentally, we're both, I think I would say that in the past, we both tended to be very sensitive and take things personally very easy. And this has really allowed us to have much more stability and not take things personally. And when we do take things personally, to be able to get over it more quickly. And so there's just much less conflict, much quicker resolution if there is conflict. And on the whole, just a greater experience of trust and intimacy, which is really beautiful.
Oh, that is so wonderful. One of the things that I've noticed that I found when I first came across this understanding, I became really curious, is that generally speaking, I'm talking about the Western world, it seems like the divorce rates are pretty high at the level, I'm not too sure if it's 50%, but at least 40%, divorce rates at 40%. And when I started looking into this understanding and I started doing a little bit of research, I discovered that there is a really high percentage of couples that have been married for a long, long time. And when I'm saying long, long time, I'm talking 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, even 50 years. They were already married before they came across this understanding. And I was like, wow, there is something in it. Is this a byproduct of keep looking into this direction? And I became really curious about it. And then about 2 weeks ago, I was in a retreat with Jan and Chip Chipman, and they've been married for 50 years now. And they had ups and downs in their marriage, mostly before they came across this understanding. And they were saying, we've been together for 50 years now, and last year was our best year yet. And that does not mean they've got a horrible relationship. No, it was already good, but it still has been their best year yet. So I thought like so heartwarming. I was like, wow,
Really?
there is hope for everyone.
Absolutely. It's really inspiring. And I think that relationships, without this understanding, relationships can be really hard. And, you know, it's innocent, but the way that most the focus for helping people with relationship is really to focus on looking at the problems from a low state of mind.
Mm.
And that is never a good idea. And, you know, when Angus and I work with couples, we start off working with them one-on-one. You know, we don't have them, if they're a high conflict couple, we don't start out with them together. And I think some people think like, what is this, some kind of money making thing? It's like, no, we are committed to working this out, but there has to be a foundation of understanding that is an internal understanding. It's not about the interaction. It's about an internal understanding of the innate state of well-being that is there no matter what is happening outside, and that the only thing that gets in the way of it is our own thinking. Mm-hmm. And that some people catch on really quickly, some people don't catch on so quickly, but once that's seen, I think it's impossible to then go into a disagreement with someone and really be able to blame them. Like, I can blame someone, but on some level I wake up to it and realize that that's not how it works. So it's like, it's a complete game changer. And when we really see as humans that we have love, that we are love, like who we are as love, that is our natural state, then the natural state of the relationship reflects that more and more. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take effort and work to get there. Like, I don't need to work at my natural state, just like I don't need to work at being a woman. I don't need to work at having brown skin. Like, that's just what is. My natural state is love. And so when two people whose natural state is love come together, they don't need to work at having a loving experience. That's mm-hmm. given. That is the natural state of the relationship. And then we add on our judgments, we add on our insecure thinking that then has us not experience that state. And then we get into interactions with the other person. But when it's seen like that's not about the other person, that's just a reflection of us not being ourselves in the moment. Mm. And that all we need to do is let ourselves settle back down. Mm-hmm. And then the love is there inside of us. It's easy to reconnect. It becomes really simple. It's not complicated. And couples that have, most of the differences that couples have when they're in a really good feeling and in a loving state, they don't care about those differences. They aren't a problem. They're not deal breakers. And then the ones that might need some logistical navigation, some communication around from a loving place, infinite potential is there to work that out. Solutions can arise that aren't compromise, but are really true solutions that are win-win, that both people feel good about. And so I just love sharing this understanding with couples and with people about relationships, because to me that is such a foundational experience of being a human being. It doesn't matter what you're doing in life, you tend to be in a relationship with other people.
And I'm so glad that you've made that distinction. Mostly important is the part when you said, okay, we work with a couple separate, one at a time, because sometimes people, if they are in some type of situation where they're looking for therapy because the relationship is not going well, usually because they are looking to breaking up and they want to give a final chance. They may think, I really would like to do this, but my partner doesn't want to do it. I'm stuck. And it's not required. If the person that wants to start by doing the work, that will make a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you're pointing that out, because you can be one person in a couple that wants to see more about this understanding, and it will impact the relationship. Mm-hmm. Like with Angus, it's funny, he'll joke about this, but I've done every personal growth thing under the sun and dragged him to most of them. And when I got to the 3 principles, he's like, I'm out, whatever you're doing is fine, but I'm like, go for it. I'm here and I'm okay. So he wasn't interested, and I would, obviously share and talk about it, but he really wasn't interested in doing another thing. And it wasn't until he really saw the shift in me that he said, what's happening here? I need to know more about it. But he wanted to know more about it for himself and his work. But even if he hadn't learned more about it for himself, our relationship would have shifted and changed.
Mm-hmm.
We need to learn about it in order for us to experience it differently, because he was impacted by the shift inside of me, and it brought out the best in him. And then there's a synergy, a positive synergy that happens there. And so it's like what we're pointing to is already inside of people, is already who they are, is already how things work. So it's just simply bringing that understanding so it's more clear, so we get less confused along the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And something that just occurred to me. So you did mention that you've got two teenagers and a dog, Bella. So how
And I
did
have
the
to say, I have a cat too, Twilight. He always gets
and the cat, we can't leave the cat out. So how did this understanding permeated into your relationship with your children? Because, well, they started changing, so they are seeing they've got kind of different parents, basically, in a nutshell.
You know, it's so funny because we have, like I said, two daughters, and the older one will say to the younger one, "You're so lucky," because she's going through her teen years more when we have this understanding. And we always say to the older one, "Well, you're our starter child. We have to figure things out along the way." But what I've seen in terms of parenting, and you know, it's common sense, but I think sometimes in the teen years when things change, it can be hard to sort of really see the value, the profound value in it. But focusing on the relationship is really the most important thing. And, you know, really seeing the innate well-being in both of my children and recognizing that they are going to have to navigate life without me being at their side the whole time. Mm. And the most important thing I can do for them is to help them know that they have wisdom inside of them. And that ultimately is the most important thing for them to listen to, not even me. Like they have to listen to that inside of themselves. And, you know, I might not agree with all the choices that they make, but I have to honor that that's their learning process and that's their learning curve, and to love them through it all. And I have to say that sort of it's the teenage experience with, you know, having teenage kids was bumpy, a little bit bumpy on my end, not so much because of my daughter, but because of my own fear, anxiety, and insecurity. So that was the only thing that made it bumpy. It was, she was being a normal teenage kid doing her normal teenage things, but I got caught up in my own insecurity, anxiety. And so by really seeing the absolute disservice that was doing to my parenting, like my commitment to loving my kids was bigger than my anxiety. So fortunately, that helped me to wake up to the fact that that is not helpful. That is not helpful to navigate this age stage from a place of fear. And really, it's the connection and the ability to listen and willingness to just work things out together has been really valuable. And I think I've grown so much from that experience. Like I've learned so much from both of my daughters and continue to learn so much from them. And it's really such a blessing to see how they know some of this stuff innately in a way that I had forgotten. You know, it's just much more common sense to them. I'm like, well, of course. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it is really nice, and it's fun, especially with our older one, because we'll often talk about things over dinner and have conversations about the 3 principles and basically what we're up to, and we're not sharing it as a way like, oh, this is how you should think, but just sharing about how it's impacting our lives, what's going on. And then my daughter said to me the other day, she says, you know, Mom, I'm telling my friends the same thing that you're telling your clients. They're coming to me with their problems and I'm helping them see that they're okay. I thought that's so great.
That is beautiful. I love what you said, that my commitment to love my children is bigger than my anxiety, or stronger than my anxiety. That is phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's charging her friends yet.
No, she should. There we go. She needs a summer job.
That was my practical side kicking in. I was like, oh, she must be charging them. Or should be.
That's funny.
Rohini, I'm loving this conversation, and I'm kind of getting a sense that we are coming to a conclusion of this, at least this episode. So, how can people reach you? What is the easiest way for people to find you?
The easiest place would be to go to my website, which is rohiniross.com. And I do a weekly blog that gets posted once a week. And if they'd like to get that, they can get it in their email inbox, and they can just sign up to subscribe there. Yeah, that's probably the best way.
Okay, thank you. For me, if you would like to reach me, you can go directly to my website. So that would be www.clesiamendes.com, and I'll spell it. So it's www.clesiamendes.com. Or if you prefer, you can find me on Facebook. So that would be facebook.com/Clésia.Mendes. Now, Rohini, what would be your parting thoughts for our audience today?
I think what's present for me right now is to just really open to experiencing who they are, and just the gift that is, to have this capacity to be here and experience our true nature and express it in this human form. So in whatever ways that resonates for people, to just, look in that direction and experience more of who they are, because it's beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us today. For our audience, we'll be back next week with another episode of Womanhood from the Inside Out. Remember to subscribe and have a great week. Bye.
Thank you.